So basically last week we were talking about the same focal length on APS-C and full frame, and I did some comparison tests with 35mm on APS-C and 50mm on the full frame camera, because that sort of gives the same focal length. So first of all, we're not going to shoot the photos, we're going to shoot videos, because that's also one of the things that you guys were really interested in, and how the video looks like when you're shooting the same focal length on APS-C and on full frame. Is the bokeh different? Is there more light coming in? And you know, how it also matches with if I use f1.8 on APS-C and 2.8 on full frame. Because remember, I used the crop factor calculator, and we determined that if we are using the 35mm lens, then with f1.8 on APS-C, it gives the equivalent of approximately 50mm on full frame with the f2.8. So instead of using the A6000 that I always use for my tests, I'm actually going to be using the Sony A6400. You can see it's all set up here, and I have a nice setup here, and I'm using the A6400 because it can shoot 4K, so better have 4K for both A7IV and A6400. So, and I have some layout here on the table. As you can see, I have some microphones and some accessories, because we're going to be focus pulling back and forth, so you can see the bokeh on both of these cameras and both of these lenses. And I'm also using a lot of lights here. It's just because I want to have super constant lighting, so we can measure how much light is coming in each of the lenses. All the curtains are closed, everything is blacked out, so we have non-changing light. And so regarding the settings for A6400, as I said, I'm going to be shooting 4K, 24 frames per second. I'm going to use ISO 100. Most importantly, I'm not going to be using any picture profiles, because I don't want that 10-bit, 8-bit kind of thing come into play. I don't want to use HLG on A6400 or something like the S-Logs on one or the other camera. I just will keep it very simple. We are talking about light and the bokeh, and we're not talking about the dynamic range, because obviously that's a huge difference between the two cameras. So now I'm going to be just pulling the focus back and forth from the Daddy box that I have here and back here again to the front and also here. And obviously we're going to be comparing side by side all of these images, but let me just set up also the A7IV and do exactly the same test with the 50mm f1.8 lens. So again, the settings are the same. I'm turning off the picture profile and putting the ISO 100. The only difference that I'm going to be doing with A7IV is that I'm going to be setting the f-stop at 2.8 instead of 1.8, because of the crop factor that we determined already previously. So now, as you can see, I'm also doing the same exact test. I'm pulling forward and backwards in order to see how the image is going to look like before we compare. And you know what? Actually, what I noticed right out of the bat is that the A7IV with f2.8 lets in less light, and that's a little bit surprising. I was not expecting that. I don't know if this is just a video thing or photo thing. So actually I'm gonna set up the f-stop to f1.8 and do exactly the same test. And as you can see now, the metering is 0, just like it was with A6400. And guys, don't forget that the Viltrox competition is still going on. There is prize pool of more than $15,000 and you can win a Fuji X-T5 camera with a bunch of Viltrox lenses are in the offer, SD cards, filters, photo bags, bunch of stuff that you can guys win. The competition is open for everyone in the world, and no matter which style you shoot in, which kind of cameras you use, none of that matters as long as the pictures are nice and good, and is that you're using the Viltrox lens for these shots. And good luck. Let's bring it in and compare both of these things. So I'm going to be showing 3 pictures actually side by side. A6400 on the left with f1.8, and we have the A7IV on the right with f2.8, and as you can see, the image is considerably darker, so I felt like the exposure needs to be adjusted so we can compare the images side by side much better. So I did just that. Right out of the bat, if I look at it, I look at these things that are kind of close, A7IV here and here. I mean, I feel like the depth of field is somewhat similar. I mean, this YouTube play button, I don't see anything here written. This Daddy kind of almost, this one looks more blurry. I don't know, I would call it an even, but obviously if we were to switch to f1.8 to the maximum on both lenses, you can immediately see that A7IV wins the battle because bokeh is still, it's a lot more when it comes to f2.8 versus f1.8 and 1.8 versus 1.8. So my conclusion is that when you are shooting f1.8 on APS-C, it looks exactly the same like if you would be shooting f2.8 on the full frame. Alright guys, let me know what you think about this test, and if you haven't seen the previous one with the photos, go check that out as well. I really hope you enjoyed this kind of video, and let me know what I should test in the next video. And in the meantime, you go keep on creating and I'll do the same. Bye.